Assalamu alaikum, dear students. After Eid, I hope you all are fine. Today we will learn what are acids and bases according to different concepts. There are three theories about acids and bases in grade 9th chemistry textbook, page number 141. These three theories are Argenos theory, Laurie-Bronsted theory, and Lewis theory. First of all, we will learn about the Argenos theory. Actually, this scientist was a Swedish chemist and his complete name was Svante Arrhenius. He had introduced that an acid is a substance that produces or releases hydrogen ions when dissolved in water. For example, hydrochloric acid. Whenever we dissolve hydrochloric acid in water, it will produce H plus ions. Now, if we want to learn about this thing, that how the H plus ion is produced, it is clearly explained here. We know this thing that hydrogen belongs to group 1a and it has one electron in its last shell, whereas chlorine belongs to group 7a and it has 7 electrons in its last shell. Chlorine wants to complete its octet, hence chlorine is sharing its 7th electron with hydrogen's 1 electron and its octet is complete. Then we know this thing that chlorine is more electronegative. That's why chlorine attracts those both pair electrons towards itself. So hydrogen, as a result, hydrogen has lost its 1 electron, so it gets plus charge, whereas chlorine gained 1 electron, so its charge is minus 1. So whenever we dissolve this compound in water, it will produce H plus ions, and every compound that produces H plus ion when dissolved in water, according to Arrhenius, is acid. For example, HCl, whenever it is dissolved in water, it produces H plus and chloride ion. Secondly, we will learn what is Arrhenius base. According to Arrhenius, a base is any substance that releases, produces or yields hydrogen, not hydroxide or hydroxyl ion in water. For example, sodium hydroxide. Whenever we dissolve sodium hydroxide in water, it will produce Na plus and OH minus ions in water. So that's why NaOH is a base. This is the chemical reaction that takes place inside water. NaOH is dissolved into, or it dissociates into Na plus and OH minus ions inside this beaker. These are some Arrhenius acids and these are some Arrhenius bases containing hydroxide ions. Now we will learn the second theory about acids and bases. And a question arises here that why this new theory came to explain acids and bases. Because the Arrhenius theory was only applicable to those compounds which can be dissolved in water, and it was not applicable to those compounds which are not able to dissolve in water. Number one. Number second, Arrhenius theory was not able to explain the basicity of ammonia because ammonia's formula is NH3 and it doesn't contain hydroxide ion, but it was still a base. So that is why two new scientists came in 1923 and they both explained acids and bases in terms of protons. According to these both scientists, an acid is a substance that donates protons or hydrogen ions. A base is a substance that accepts protons or hydrogen ions or H plus ions. Let's see example of it. Look here, hydrochloric acid is reacting with water H2O. Here HCl is an acid, that is why it is donating one proton to water, which is a base. So base is accepting that H plus ion or proton and forms hydronium ion, which is H3O. In this second example, again the water is acting as acid and the ammonia is acting as base. Here water is donating its one proton H plus ion to ammonia. Ammonia, which is a base, so it accepts that proton or H plus ion and forms ammonium ion. So according to Bronsted and Lowry, acid is a proton donor, whereas a base is a proton acceptor. Let's see what the third theory says about acids and bases. According to Lewis, in 1923, Jean Lewis introduced a new concept about acids and bases. According to Lewis, a substance that accepts an electron pair, means two electrons, is a Lewis acid. And what is a Lewis base? A substance that donates an electron pair, means that gives the electron pairs, is a base. So it means Lewis base must have a pair of electrons and Lewis acid must be able to accept that pair of electrons. Let's see the example of it. Look here, Lewis base here is ammonia and Lewis acid here is boron trifluoride. Here you can see the nitrogen of ammonia contains a pair of electrons. This nitrogen donates this pair of electron to boron of boron trifluoride. Boron accepts that pair of electrons. As a result, they both compounds, they combine and they form acid base adduct. This is the example of Lewis acid and base. So let's summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. We learned three theories about acids and bases. First theory was Argenos theory. According to Argenos, acid is H plus ion producer and base is hydroxide ion producer. Second theory was Bronsted-Lowry theory. According to Bronsted and Lowry, the acid is the proton donor and base is the proton acceptor. And according to Lewis, electron pair acceptor is the acid and electron pair donor is the base. So these three theories you have to memorize and write in your chemistry notebooks. I hope you understood today's lecture. If you understood today's lecture, like the video and comment below as I should get you are getting my lectures or not.